What's up guys, it's Roxy here and welcome back to yet another amazing video on the channel. So for today I got you a updated Invoked engine dot profile. I know you guys loved the last one, and basically past Power of the Elements, I'm seeing no one play this deck and I don't understand why. I still think the deck has a lot of potential, and you'll see in the deck profile just why. I do explain all the reasons and why. It's just one of those decks that will never die as long as they don't touch it on the ban list. It's always going to be there, guys. So if you do enjoy this type of content, make sure you leave a like, subscribe down below. I promise you it is free, and leave a comment down below. What deck are you playing Power of the Elements format? I want to know. As long as it isn't Splight or Tillemans, I will love all the comments. I'm just kidding, guys. But without any further ado, let's get straight into the deck profile. Okay, so starting off with the deck profile here, we have triple Alistair the Invoker. Now, of course, this is a Invoked deck. We are, of course, going to have three of the best normal summon in Yu-Gi-Oh, which is of course Alistair still to this day, which I think is kind of insane. And we all know what he does. He grabs you Invocation on normal summon, but not only that, during the damage step you can discard him, which a lot of people forget, to give something a 1000 attack boost, which is very useful when you can make Winder, because they'll usually make something that can just about be over Winder. Discard Alistair, and then you keep your Winder on board and you keep the floodgate going. So of course, accompanying the Alistair, we have triple of the Magical Meltdown. This basically is again your 4th, 5th and 6th copy of Alistair, and not only that, it basically says that your fusion summons cannot be negated and the effects of fusion monster are summoned this way. So it protects your invocation from the ghost spell, which I have been thrown a few times and they just can't because of the meltdown, which is very useful considering Bell is run a lot in this format along with Crow. Crow you are susceptible to, but at least you protect yourself from the Bell. And for example, if you summon a Macabre and you already have a DPE in play on summon, you can activate DPE effect, and then they just can't respond because they can't react to the summons of fusion monsters. So I feel like that's a really cool effect that not a lot of people have used, and I just thought I'd put it out there. For a one-off here, of course, we have the Terraforming. This just gets you access to the Meltdown, and it's basically just another copy of Alistair. And of course, we have the two Invocations. I've seen people play one. I think that they're a lot braver than me, especially with DD Crow being so prominent in a format like this. If they banish one Invocation, that is pretty much your engine gone. So I suggest you run two, guys, and just so if they do banish one, you have another one you can search and you can just keep your engine going. This is the Invoked engine is really just about outgrinding, puts up the Macabre negate, and then you do it again in the next turn. So this is just a really grindy engine, and that actually surprises a lot of people, the amount of grind that this deck has, and the fact that Invocation can put itself back to the deck to add Alistair back to your hand from the banish pile is that reason. Switching engines here, we have triple of course the branded engine. I still think this engine is very good, guys, with the one Fallen Valbaz. This engine basically helps you sometimes unbrick. For example, if you open an Invocation and you don't have an Alistair but you have a light discard, for example an Ecclesia, a Ghost Ogre, or whatever light target, you can basically dump your Alistair with the branded fusion, discard the light monster, and then you have your Invocation live. And I feel like that's amazing. And not only that, it does bring out the Mirror Jade Dragon, which is a non-targeting banish with setup. It can send you, it can get your Dogmatica engine going, or it can get you a search of a fusion spell via the other dragon that you do play in the extra deck. So I feel like the branded fusion engine is amazing, locks you into fusion summoning, but that's the entire deck, so it's not really a problem. Moving on to another engine. This engine I'm not that sure about. This is an engine that I consider cutting. It is basically the Destiny Hero engine with the two fusion destinies. And this engine is sort of really good against rogue matchups. It's kind of good against decks that need a monster on the board. It's also kind of good against Splight, although they can negate it easily. But if you can keep a level 2 off the board, it is very good. And DPE is just another grindy resource that you have. You come back every turn. Non-targeting pop is kind of nice. And of course, they do get you a draw 2 as well. So considering cutting it out, if I were going to cut it out, I would either play just 2 Dark Rulers and 2 Ultimate Slayers, or more hand traps. That would be up to you guys to decide if you do take it out. For the last engine we are playing here, we have the Dogmatica engine. As I've mentioned before, we have triple of the Dogmatica Ecclesia because she's absolutely insane in your hand and gives you access to your Winder, which is also just a win condition in the deck alone. And we are playing the one Fleur-de-Lis, the one Maximus, and of course the two Nadir's Servants. Fleur-de-Lis is your negate, and your Maximus basically just gives you access to your Winder, and in certain matchups basically can just make your opponent lose 2 resources out of their extra deck. There are times that I have thought about cutting Maximus. When Branded was really popular, Maximus was a really bad card. It basically just gave them free setup, but Branded has fallen off a little bit, so Maximus I think is okay to play. And of course we accompany this with the one Shuttle Schism. This gets you your Winder, and that's another win condition alone, and I feel like it's worth playing. For the hand traps, and we are playing a lot of them, I believe we are playing around 12 hand traps, and in a 40 card deck, which this gives you a roughly above a 50% chance to draw 2 hand traps in your opening hand, which is sort of what you need nowadays to be able to sort of hinder a board. So there is a good chance that you will be drawing, well, better than average chance that you will be drawing 2 hand traps, and these are the hand traps I'm playing. We have the Triple Ash, of course, not as good as when it was solely a branded format, because ashing the branded fusion was insane. And of course, if you ash it, most of the time it's not enough, but it is a very useful hand trap, guys. So I am playing 3 of it. I have 2 Ghost Spell. This card is really good against stuff like Telements, because it basically just shuts off. It's sort of good against Splites. If they search that spell that banishes a card, you can Ghost Spell it, because it does have the effect to special summon from the graveyard too. And it's a bit useful if, for example, against crows, if they want to crow your invocation, you can of course Ghost Spell that and sort of protects you. We're of course playing double DD Crow. I feel like this is the hand trap of the format, guys. This card is really good against Telements, basically just shutting off their fusion summons along with Bell. But Bell leaves the resource in the grave, whereas the Crow just banishes it. It's also really good against Splight if you banish the Ronin Toad at the right time. You can banish the Totally Awesome at the right time. It's really good, this format, guys. And of course, we are also playing the 2 Ghost Ogres. This can be Effect Veiler. I just feel like Ghost Ogre is the better card going second, since Veiler can only be activated during your opponent's main phase 1. And also, apart from the fact that it is able to be used during your turn and not just during your opponent's main phase, it is also a light target as well as Veiler, which is very important when you have your Alistair and you need a light target. So that is why we are playing the Ogre. And to round off the hand traps, we are playing triple of the Infinite Impermanence. This is still a very good card. Very good going second, helps you break boards. If there is a Winder from a Telement player, you can of course just imperm it. It is very good against a Splight player as well. You can imperm the Toad, or you can't necessarily imperm the Toad because usually it is pointed to by the Link 2, but you can imperm the Link 2, and that basically switches off a negate. So we are of course playing triple of the imperm as well. And now for the last 3 cards, these are sort of the only like extra spots you have in the deck. This of course can be triple Pot of Prosperity if you can afford that card, but instead I am playing 2 triple Tactics Talent. I just feel like this format, this card is really good because there's a lot of main phase shenanigans going on from your opponent, and this card punishes that. It is basically 3 banned cards in one. And we are playing the 1 Call by the Grave. Whenever you draw the Call by the Grave, you just feel so safe from whatever your opponent's going to do. Really good against a Toad, really good against a Telement player, and really good against hand traps. So that is the main deck. As I said, it is 40 cards. There's around I think it's around 56% chance that you would be drawing 2 hand traps in your opening hand. And of course, Invoked is just a 1-card engine that gets you the negate. So that is why this deck I still think is very good. The only thing I would consider cutting out would be the DP engine and playing 2 Dark Rulers and 2 Ultimate Slayers, if of course you can afford the Ultimate Slayers. But now let's be moving on to the extra deck. So moving on to the extra deck, I feel like I have a pretty refined extra deck at the moment. The only changes I would make, I will be telling you guys. So we are playing the 1 Secure Gardener accompanied with the Almirage. If you do not play Maximus, guys, you can skip this and you can just play 1 Magistus Artemis, and that would save you 1 extra deck spot. The reason you play the Almirage and the Secure Gardener if you're playing Maximus is because the Almirage you'll make off your Alistair, you'll then link it away to make your Secure Gardener, and you'll have a link monster in the graveyard to be able to banish to feed your Maximus. So that is the reason we play this. If you don't play Maximus, guys, you just play Magistus Artemis, and you can just play anything else in the extra deck as you'll have more space. So for now, I'm playing these 2. If I do cut Maximus, I'll have an extra deck spot. Moving on to the Invoked portion, we have a very refined list. We have 2 Macabres and the 1 Agoides. In my opinion, I think 2 Macabre is mandatory, guys. If they out your 1 Macabre, a lot of players just think you're playing the 1 so that you can only make the Agoides, but you can make the 2nd Macabre by using the light material that is Macabre itself. So I feel like playing 2 just makes sense, because if they out 1, it basically gives you the 2nd one for free as it's a light target. or you can make the Agoides, and if they do out the second Macabre, you can make Agoides, or if they out your Invoked Macabre, you can make Agoides as well. And Agoides, guys, I feel like it's one of the most slept on cards I think I have ever seen, guys. A lot of people don't even know what this card does. If you don't know what it does, is when this card is special summoned, or a monster special summoned to your opponent's field, you target one monster your opponent controls and you should destroy it. So you get a pop during your turn when you summon it, and then if your opponent special summons, you get another pop, guys. And not only that, if your opponent has a big monster, let's say they have an Avermax, let's say they have a Agnista, you can banish a fusion monster from the graveyard and boost this card's attack till the end of your opponent's turn. So that is usually enough with a Alistair discard to beat over pretty much anything, guys, because let's say, for example, you banish a Macabre, this goes up to 4/5, you go battle phase, attack, damage step, discard your Macabre, it's now 5/5. So that is usually enough to beat over anything. And of course, there are bigger fusion monsters that you can have in the grave. Most of the branded dragons are 3k, so you can pump this up to 5k, and then discard with Alistair to have 6k. So I think Agoides is mandatory, guys. In my opinion, this card is cracked. I'd say it's just as good as Macabre, but Macabre, of course, just is the Omni Negate, but a lot of times the Macabre just gets Dark Rulered usually. So I think the Agoides is a lot more versatile than Macabre. Moving on to the branded aspect, I guess you can say, we have the Mirror Jade, we have the Lubellion, we have the Alba, and we have the Titanic Lad. Now, I know it seems like a lot, guys, to play for just a little engine of 4 cards that you play in your main deck. You have to realize they serve a lot of purposes. These two are obviously sendable off your Dogmatica engine, and these give you pluses on the end phase. So really, if you exclude these two, you're only really playing a 2-card engine in sort of Lubellion and Mirror Jade. And Mirror Jade, guys, gives you access to dump these two directly from the extra deck to the grave, which give you more advantage over time, guys. So this is why I still think, although it seems like a lot, 4 spaces is actually very little for this deck. Titanic Lad access to your Dogmaticas. This Alba can give you access to more branded fusions or your hero, because it can add you a fusion spell during the end phase. And Lubellion gives you the Mirror Jade, which of course is a non-targeting banish, and if they do out it, it is your opponent's board at the end phase. So I feel like this lineup right now for branded is extremely solid. There's nothing really I would change with this part. I think this part is pretty good. And yeah, I think I've said enough about this engine. It's really good. Of course, you can make Titanic Lad, which is unaffected by monster special from the extra deck. So you sort of have like a Towers-like monster, and it does gain attacks. That's pretty funny as well. For the Shaddoll aspect, we have the 1 construct, the 1 app clone, and the Winder. I see a lot of people just play the app clone and the Winder, but that means that you always pretty much have to keep the Schism in your hand. Whereas if you play the construct, it's an extra spot in your extra deck, but allows you to dump the Schism, and then you can dump construct and then it back to your hand. Sometimes you want to keep the Schism in your hand. If you know it's a win condition against your opponent's deck, it might be a bit risky to send Schism to the grave because DD Crow and Ghost Spell are so prevalent. But if you don't fear it, or you have a call by, you send the construct and you gain that +1 from the app clone. So that is why I play it. And of course, Winder, enough said. Winder just locks your opponent and you into special summoning once per turn. And Invoke don't mind that. They're just normal Alistair and then make a Macabre and a Agoides and just poke from there. And Winder's just absolutely insane. If they don't deal with this card, you pretty much win the game. And for the last 3 cards, guys, that we are playing in the extra deck, we have the 1 DPE. This is, of course, necessary for the Fusion Destiny package. This is, of course, by far the best target, and gives you a non-targeting pop every turn, and it, comes back and gives you a draw 2 off its materials. We have the 1 Elder Entity Entis, which is also another reason this deck can play Ultimate Slayer, because you naturally play the Entis anyway. And we have the Psyframe Lord Omega. Again, another reason to be playing Ultimate Slayer. You do play the Omega as well, because you do play Gamma in the side, and also if you send this off the Nadir Servant, it's basically a non-targeting shuffle into your opponent from your opponent's grave back into their deck. So it's really, really nice, and it gives you a lot of versatility in that aspect as well. So that is the end of the deck profile, guys. As you can see, I still think Invoked is an insane deck this format, and you guys should give it another look and at least test out my build. Of course, if you do test out my build and you find a better version of it, or places that you prefer different cards, please do leave a comment down below. I read all the comments and I love responding to you guys. And make sure you do stick around for this type of content. As I said, I am uploading twice a week now, and there are a lot more rogue and fun deck profiles coming. I have a Nephthys deck profile on the way, and I'll keep my mouth quiet for the rest. But yeah, make sure you do stick around, and I'll catch you all.
It's time! Let's go!